put the play on, so that we can
put it on.
But like the reason why we're looking for the venue is so we can do the budgeting for what we need for the application, so that we can put it into the Arts Council, basically. But because it's, do you wanna tell like just a brief outline of what the play's about?
It's quite difficult to kind of like try and, but I suppose it's about someone who's fighting their own inner demons, I suppose, and yeah, I think that's probably like it right now.
Yeah, that's actually it. Yeah, someone who's fighting their own inner demons, and that's a story that everyone can relate to. I think because
we're all doing that.
We're doing that day in, day out.
But it does get quite surreal. It's not like
yeah, that's what I love about it. It's very surreal, and then it kind of becomes real, and then that's when it really makes you think. So I don't know. It's without saying that's literally all you can say about the play, without kind of giving away too much. I mean, there's kind of themes of suicide in it, themes of mental health, but yeah, that's all you can really say about the play without like telling you the whole story. I've realised that like with writing a play, like people ask me what the play's about, and I'm just like and then I'm just start to think about like things that are close or similar to it. So it's kind of like this is what I've been telling people. I was like, it's kind of like Black Mirror mixed with 1984 mixed with Gossip Girl. But only from the idea. Oh wait, no, I can't say that. Just mixed with Gossip Girl, with also elements of Romeo and Juliet, and
there's a bit of a Romeo and Juliet in 1984 as well, isn't there? Actually, exactly. With Juliet.
Exactly. Winston and Juliet.
Ding ding ding. No, I'm really looking forward to reading that when you finish with that. Sounds really interesting.
It's an interesting story, especially the story that we're trying to tell of just basically just this generation of just how we literally complain about something for all of 5 seconds and then it's not an issue. So what would happen if that just continued and spiraled out of control, like life kind of seems to be doing right now? So it's on the forefront that kind of Brexit has happened.
The rise of the far right.
Yeah.
All over, yeah.
Yeah. So it's got elements of real life of what's happening around us, as well as kind of the whole drama of the world of. I just really love 1984 because I read 1984 after starting writing this play. Yeah. Because I started writing the play and I was explaining the story to someone. No, it was Sophie. Yeah. Yeah, I was explaining the story to Sophie and she was like, Have you read 1984? And I was like, no, what's 1984? She's like, you haven't read 1984 by George Orwell. And I'm like, I ain't heard of that book. I read the book and I was like, oh my days, this is literally the world that we're trying to create. It's like, it's just, I can't believe George Orwell wrote it all down in a book, and he wrote it in what the
40s.
In the 40s, yeah.
He wrote it the periods when, like, you know, Stalin was in power.
Yeah, exactly.
And like towards the end of the Second World War, but I think like I remember like the one bit of that book that haunts me the most is the last line, and it's the one where you know, he was in love with Big Brother, or he
Yeah.
fell in love with Big Brother, or whatever. But yeah, I just remember reading that bit for the first time, and just being like, "Whoa!" Like, you know.
Yeah. Another thing that I
Julia. It's Julia.
It's like, and it's also like nothing's changed as well. It's really eerie at the end of 1984 because it's like at the same time, it's like so much has happened in the middle, but it's like we're right back at the start again.
I was reading a bit actually about an article the other week about Orwell writing 1984, and basically due to ill health he went up into like onto some Scottish island and was on some like some house isolated there, and that's when he wrote 1984. But do you know, as you're reading that book you can feel like the horror and like coming over the whole time, well because he wrote Animal Farm, and it was like it was a critique on the Stalinist regime. Like Stalin sent out agents to go and kill people, did that kind of thing. So the whole time he was writing 1984, he thought Stalinist agents were like coming out to get him, and I think you can sense that now. You can sense
that now. Now knowing that, that's what the book is kind of about.
Yeah.
It's literally that's what it's about. He's Winston.
He was Winston, yeah, exactly. Like the ill health and the
exactly. He's Winston, and he's these thought crimes that he's having against Stalin, and they're closing in on him. And this story was just like, what if they caught me? How would they catch me? Well, they would have to trick me, and the only way they could trick me is make me fall in love with a girl that would actually be the girl that I actually really hated at the start of the book, but then end up falling in love with. And then she's the one that's tricking me.
What was being your room 101?
My room 101, as in like a book?
No, as in like, do you know, the torture chamber where it's like your worst fear? So his is rats, for example. Winston's.
Shit. My room 101, I guess. My worst fear. My worst fear is heights. You can't put that in a box. I guess I don't have many fears nowadays. I guess back in the day, like when I was a kid, I was like I was actually afraid of Harry Potter. There was one Harry Potter movie I was deadly afraid of watching, and I was deadly afraid of Lord of the Rings as well. But for some reason they were horror films to me, and I couldn't watch it at night. Otherwise, I had nightmares.
Yeah.
So like back in the day, I would have put like Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter films. The books are dope. The books I read The Hobbit, and I read all of the Lord of the Rings books. I have not seen The Hobbit, but people tell me who have seen The Hobbit don't watch The Hobbit. So I was like, fine, I'm happy with the story that I read in Tolkien's book. For me, it feels like I understand why they did it that way, but if they were going to stretch out The Hobbit into 3 films anyway, they might as well just release The Hobbit first, you know? And then done Lord of the Rings.
It's like they did a lot of the shorter stories and stuff, didn't they? Like they added them in, but no, I haven't seen the new Lord of the Rings films either.
But there is a Tolkien film that's which is the biopic of Tolkien, which I think is pretty cool because there's parts in the film where like, because he was in the war, like there's parts of like weapons that he's fused together, or ideas for like weapons that he's came up with from Lord of the Rings, from being in the war and put into Lord of the Rings, and they kind of show you kind of what his thought process would have been for that kind of weapon, or how like he connects like an explosion to be something else in Lord of the Rings, and they show you that, and that's pretty cool. Apparently, I haven't seen it there.
Yeah, no, I need to. I do like Tolkien. But, no. I don't know if you remember this. Like, I was pretty good when it came to films. Like, I was like horror films and stuff as a kid. I was pretty much able to watch whatever. But the one thing that did terrify me is, do you remember? We're roughly the same age, aren't we? Do you remember the Demon Headmaster?
Yeah.
That used to terrify me. It's like the opening, like was like, yeah, I used to send shivers down my spine. But yeah, no.
Like the reason why I say nothing scares me is because like horror films nowadays, I don't find them scary.
No.
And the reason is because I don't believe these things can happen to me personally. That's it. That's all. I need to believe that shit in the film can happen to me in my real life, and then I will be scared. Like when I watched Get Out. Get Out was a scary film. I was like, I finished watching that film. I was like, oh, white people. Maybe I need to look at them differently now. I was like, this could happen. No, I believe this could happen. This could totally happen to me.
I think there's kind of like a resurgence in like good horror films now, don't they? Like there's like The Witch. That's a good film, but I think for a while, horror films just became ridiculously boring. Like it's just you knew it before it was even made. Like a bunch of teenagers get lost in the woods. A bunch of teenagers, like, you know, and like I think it's more psychological horror that scares people rather than, you know, blood and gore.
And even what, The Conjuring or...
I haven't seen any of that.
I found those absolutely hilarious. I can't remember who I went to the cinema with, but like maybe I think it was The Conjuring 2 must have come out, and we went down there and like we were the only people laughing. There was parts like, but like literally what we were laughing at, it was like, because it was so not scary, we were laughing at other people's reactions to the jumps, like, because we called it, like, so we were like, oh, there's something coming, like, they're gonna act out, and they were like, oh! Oh my days, it was the best time I've ever been to the cinema. Watching a horror film, just laughing my head off. Like just watching the film, I was like, this couldn't happen. Why is he going in this room? No, he's hearing the noises. Don't go in the room. Who goes in the room? Like who does? Like I need to see a film like where they hear the noises in the room, no one goes in the room, and then the ghoul just like still gets them, you know. And then I'll be like, yo, it doesn't matter if you don't go in the room, the shit's still gonna get you. Oh, it was just a ploy.
Actually, I remember scaring like years ago with you know, my parents were pretty liberal. I was allowed to watch whatever. So when I was about like 10 or 9 or something, I watched like Silence of the Lambs, and like, I was fine with it. I thought it was great. But anyway, like we maybe a couple of months later or something, like, do you know when you go on those like in primary school, when you go on those like trips away for a week or whatever, it's your first time away from your parents and whatnot, and so we go on one of them, and we're in this like little dorm, there's like 7 of us or so, and we want to tell ghost stories, and I've always loved telling stories, so like I did a few of my own, but like my best one was just recounting Silence of the Lambs, because it just terrified everyone. And just for the dramatic effect, I told them what was a true story, and he was on the loose. And then I think like complaints were made or whatnot.
Oh my days, that would have scared the life out of me. As a kid, I would have not been able to sleep.
Yeah. And then he peels this guy's face off.
Oh my days, I would have been there. I'd be like, oh, I would have been awake. And falling asleep at school because I felt like I was safe at school. I
just remember some teacher being like, you shouldn't be watching that. Like, but no, it's a great film.
No, I only said because I've had a job where I do you know like what's it called, Fright Nights at Fort Park. I worked there. I worked in I don't know if you have you been to Fright Nights before?
I haven't, no. That's where they have the saw stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. So like there was a maze called Asylum. And the year that I worked there was the last year of Asylum, and Asylum was a great maze, and it was basically meant to be like a mental asylum that had kind of gone even more creepier, I guess. And like the patients had run riot, and they were no longer in their cells, and everyone had to be like a character that had like a tick or something, and like it was really fun to learn how to scare people and then actually do it, because like I don't know like you've done it, so you know. Like there's not there's not a better rush than when you scare another human being. I don't. It's,
That sounds really
makes me
bad.
sound so bad. I'm so sorry, but like doing the job, like when I was like, it was just like.